Good evening. The regular meeting for the City Commission for Tuesday, January 28th will come to order. Please join me in silencing your cell phones. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Perrine?
Here.
Commissioner McGurk?
Here.
Commissioner Ashley?
Here.
Vice Mayor Martin?
Here.
Mayor Cleveland?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Police Department Senior Chaplain Tom Personal will give the invocation. Please rise and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance after the prayer.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the blessings you pour out upon us, Lord, and thank you that we get to live in this wonderful community. Lord, I'm grateful for these wonderful civil servants here in front of us, Lord, these commissioners and the elected and appointed. And we ask that you would just cover them with your protection, give them the wisdom and knowledge and discernment to make the hard decisions that they're about to make, Lord, and bless them. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
And now NSB High School grad Wyatt Luttrell, skateboard park advocate, will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. He is home from his first work assignment after high school from Alaska to witness the skateboard park upgrade and ribbon cutting. Welcome, Wyatt.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. On to recognitions and presentations and announcements. At this time, I would like to invite Alan Harrell of the Jimmy S. Harrell Black Museum to the podium with the commission to accept a proclamation from the commission. The City of New Smyrna Beach, proclamation in recognition of Black History Month. Whereas during Black History Month, we celebrate the many achievements and contributions made by African Americans to our economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development. And whereas in 1915, Dr. Carter Goodwin Woodson, noted Black scholar, son of former slaves, founded the Association for Study of African American Life and History. And whereas Dr. Woodson initiated Black History Week in February 12th of 1926. And for many years, the second week of February was chosen to coincide with the birthdays of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln to celebrate African Americans in the United States. And whereas in 1776, part of the nation's bicentennial Black History Week was expanded and became an establishment of Black History Month, which is celebrated all over North America. And whereas the entire month serves as an occasion to rediscover the enduring stories of African Americans and the gifts of freedom, purpose, and opportunity they have bestowed on future generations. It is also a time to commemorate the countless contributions of African Americans, many of whom have lived through and surmounted the scourge of segregation, racial prejudice, and discrimination, to enrich every fiber of American life. Now, therefore, I, Freddie Cleveland, Mayor of the City of New Smyrna Beach, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2025 as Black History Month and call upon all public officials, educators, local business owners, librarians, and citizens of the City of New Smyrna Beach to observe this month with the appropriate programs, activities, and ceremonies. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand this 28th day of January and cause the seal of the City of New Smyrna to be affixed. And I've signed it as your mayor. Congratulations, sir. Thank you for being here. I think we're done. Going to listen to Bob Nathan. I think he got it. And now on to the 2023 Donna Dean Miller Preservation Award. At this time, I'd like to invite their senior planner, Bob Nathan, to the podium to present the Residential 2023 Award.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So the city's created the Historic Preservation Award Program back in 2002, and in 2009, the award program was renamed in memory of Donna Dean Miller, who was an active volunteer and member of the community. Ms. Miller had served as the chair of the Historic New Smyrna Beach Preservation Commission, and she worked as an amateur archaeologist and participated in numerous other historical preservation events and activities. So awards are given annually to properties that promote pride in the city's past and increase awareness and the appreciation for buildings that contribute to the history and the character of New Smyrna Beach. Buildings that are 50 years old or older or sites associated with a historical event are eligible for this award. So I would actually like to invite the mayor and the commissioners to come down for the presentation so we can present this award to the property owner. I also would like to invite Marie Bushy to the podium, as she has been chosen as the Donna Dean Miller Preservation Award winner for the category residential for her periwinkle style home that's so located at 809 East 24th Avenue.
It's a real honor to receive this Donna Dean Historical Award. My husband and I love our 1955 periwinkle home, and we hope it inspires others to preserve our historic homes, not only the periwinkle, but other historical homes in our community, to preserve the look and feel of our community and our neighborhood. So, thank you.
Thank you, Marie, for doing that.
Also, staff would like to thank the applicants for submitting their applications this year and let everybody know we are accepting applications for the 2025 Donna Dean Miller Preservation Award.
Thank you to the senior planner for making that all happen. Thank you, Bob. Mr. City Manager, you have a report, sir?
I do, Mr. Mayor, just a few things that I wanted to report back on. We did have, at the last commission meeting, several comments from citizens that I wanted to follow up on with you. First, we had a number of citizens discuss Bison's baseball, and wanted to follow up with you on that we have made contact with those representatives. Leisure Services Director Salazar has been in communication and is working to try to assist in that regard. Secondly, we had comments from Byron White. He was interested in the city engaging in a landscape program that called for the installation of non-invasive plants. Had a follow-up email from him and have responded to him and spoken with various staff about the potential of what he was talking about. And third, we had comments from Jess Romero, and he was specifically asking about the disposition of American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, funds, and I prepared a memo for you and attached that outlines where that money was spent. A couple of other items that I did want to mention that are in the city manager's report. March 13th, Thursday, March 13th, will be our annual strategic planning session. That has been firmed up, and we will be meeting the entire day on March 13. Of course, that will bring us immediately into the preparation work for the fiscal year 2026 budget, so we are already beginning preparations in that regard. Also included in the city manager update, a note that you all are aware of, but Deputy Police Chief Chris Kirk was appointed as the interim police chief effective January 2022, and Chief Feldman is remaining for some time with us in an advisory capacity. Also received notice from Volusia County of a $800,000 grant award to assist us in our stormwater master planning effort. You all know that we have phase 1 of our master plan underway. We just conducted some public meetings on that. As soon as that is complete, we will begin phase 2, which is projected in the April-May timeframe. And so obviously very pleased to receive that money from Volusia County. A couple of other points I wanted to make, if you'll indulge me. Not on the update this time, this is just happening, but I did want to let everybody know that we have posted a job advertisement for the mobility and parking director. Of course, that was one of the more significant recommendations in the parking study that you heard about a couple of months ago. So we have that out, and we are engaged in that search. And lastly, also related to parking, I've spoken to you all on several occasions about the property at 120 South Flagler, the city property there, and the disposition of that property. We have attempted to sell that property unsuccessfully, and I've turned my attention now to utilizing that building for city purposes, and specifically for parking-related matters. And so we are fully exploring that as a possibility right now. And that is all I have, sir.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that report. Any questions for the city manager on that? Very good. This time I'd like to invite Police Chief Chris Kirk to come up and offer a few remarks about the unfortunate traffic accident this weekend from last Saturday, which resulted in the fatality of a pedestrian.
Thank you, Mayor, Commission. We responded to that crash quite quickly, as well as our fire partners and evac. Unfortunately, that crash did result in a fatality and other injuries. Officers are currently still conducting a criminal investigation. During that investigation, we'll execute search warrants, collect evidence, and review all witness statements, of which there were quite a few. So that's ongoing. We will have the result of any charges pending the completion of that investigation.
Thanks, Chief. Excellent. Appreciate it. Now it's time for public participation. This is the opportunity for any citizen who has a remark they'd like to make, something you'd like to make the commission aware of, maybe perhaps an accolade for a city staff member or concern in your neighborhood. This is a monologue, not a dialogue, so we won't be answering questions. Feel free to come forward. When you do, you'll have 3 minutes to speak to the commission. The green light will come on when you get to the podium. Please give us your name and address for the record. The yellow light will come on when you have 1 minute to go, and then you'll be finished when the red light comes on. We're anxious to hear from you. Please come up and let us know what you have to say. Mr. McKenna.
Hi, good evening, everyone on the dais. It's good to see you all. It's been a while since I've been here, so it's nice to be back. I have the privilege of serving as the chairman of the New Smyrna Beach Police Foundation, and we exist to help our local police department here in New Smyrna Beach raise money for items that fall outside of the purview of the city budget that you all approve for them every fall. Last year, we had a golf tournament at Sugar Mill Country Club, and we raised a considerable amount of money, roughly about $65,000, and we netted out of that about $40,000, and of that, we were able to procure for them a golf cart that maybe you've seen bouncing around town during special events, a couple of those electric bikes from Pedigo Bike Shop over on 3rd Avenue, and most recently some tactical training equipment that was out of date for them, some training equipment for their Glocks and their tasers. So it's been a very productive use of funds, and it's been an enjoyable experience. We have about 13 of our residents here in town that are part of our board, and they are all excited about our next fundraiser, which is coming up also at Sugar Mill Country Club at the end of February. And I have little cards here that I will leave with Sharon just to pass out to all of you so you can be aware of what's happening. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention in a formal way that this is going on. And several businesses in town have been very generous with their sponsorship levels and donating for raffle gifts. And we are anticipating close to selling out the tournament, which would probably bring us to about 116 golfers. And people are excited about it. So pray for good weather for us, because last year we had an amazing day, right in the midst of some really awful weather. But we're looking forward to it. We love supporting our local police department. And thank you for the time and bringing it to everyone's attention. Thank you.
Thank you for your work, sir. Mr. Cotto, welcome.
Good evening, City Commission. Timothy Caudell, 113 Via Benevento, New Smyrna Beach, proud citizen. Good evening, and thank you, City Commissioners, for allowing me the opportunity to speak tonight on behalf of my family, my neighborhood, citizens of New Smyrna Beach. I come before you as a concerned resident who has witnessed firsthand some serious consequences and inaction in our community that raises an eyebrow of concern. But I'm going to start with something initially a personal experience. I'd like to first off address an issue that happened a few months back. I was made aware of an elected opportunity within the city where I could serve on an advisory board committee, which I was very excited to do. I was advised to call the city commissioners, inform them of my resume, the history of aviation that I have. Having multiple conversations with all city commissioners, I was encouraged and excited to be voted in as a participant on that board. Just a few hours prior to that election, one of the commissioners who told me they would vote for me decided at the vote that they would change their mind, voted another direction. That lie, where they spoke to me directly and promised me, became a lie. I believe if you lie in small things, you'll lie in big things. We should lead our community with character first, I believe. I believe while you may have the right to change your mind, lying is an offense that is not often forgotten, especially when it's done publicly or non-publicly. I hope in the future you will decide to be honest with this community in the small things so that we can trust you with the big things. An apology does go a long way. Lisa Martin. Next, a little over a year ago, I was involved in a traumatic car accident where I was sitting at a red light. An intoxicated driver traveling at 45 miles an hour slammed into the rear of me without braking. She reeked of alcohol and clearly was impaired. Yet the responding officer from the New Smyrna Beach Police Department failed to conduct a field sobriety test. I later learned from the police report that no sobriety test was actually administered because the officer did not have one and was not properly equipped. Nor was there an officer dispatched to assist that did have one, even though the officer on the scene admitted to smelling alcohol strongly. I now live with permanent neck damage and have faced significant financial burdens, all because of a lapse in the thorough investigation that should have occurred. This could have been a fatal accident, yet the system designed to protect citizens failed to do so. The lady that hit me was actually taken home by the New Smyrna Beach Police Department due to her alcohol impairment. While I'm glad they were nice enough to help her get home and protect the pedestrians and drivers on the road, I'm saddened by the fact that I was neglected and not able to pursue the person as I should have been able to should a sobriety test been done. I would actually have to go after my city for not doing their job properly is what I was told by my law firm, which I will not do under any circumstances because I am a resident of this community. But I want to bring attention to this. This brings me to my second concern.
Thank you, Tim. Your time's up. Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else? Please come forward, ma'am. Dr. Herman, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Angie Breda Herman, 108 Esther Street. My colleague.
Lorraine Sharp, 202 Crestwood Drive.
It's really timely that we should be here tonight based on the Donna Dean Miller Award presentation, as it really shows how much of our community appreciates and loves historic buildings. So we're here, Lorraine and I, to announce the 2025 Charming Home Tour, which will be held on March 20th. As many of you know, we take the time in each of the tours that we've done, this is our 7th, to highlight a neighborhood. This time, we're highlighting a neighborhood south of the hospital, the Live Oak in Magnolia area. We have 6 properties on our tour. We always try to do something a little bit different and really showcase older homes. This time we have 4 craftsman-style homes and 1 mid-century modern home that we want to show to you. We also have the former Women's Club on our tour. It's now known as the Magnolia. And we're really pleased that Greg Holbrook will be on site at the club to talk about the property. Greg has done some amazing research to find out how the property was used in the 17th and 18th century, and also what role the Coquina Quarry underneath the former Women's Club, the role that it played in the building of forts up and down the river. So it's really quite exciting. So the other thing we wanted to mention to you was that I spearheaded a film project on the documentation of the Women's Club. Many of you have had a chance maybe to see the first video that came out a couple of weeks ago that introduced the project. And we will continue to have updates periodically up until March. And hopefully you'll have a chance to come and see the progress that Curtis is making. I'm always amazed at how when he finds a problem, he is not like I would be and become immobilized. He gets energized. So, and I can tell you there are a lot of problems in that building, so he's got a lot of energy going. So Lorraine is going to hand out to you some information on both of those events. We would like to have presented each of you on the dais a ticket, but unfortunately our tickets are $30 each, and that brings us above what we're allowed to give to you. But we certainly would like for you to take advantage and come and see the home tour. Just introduce yourselves to the docents at the door, and of course you'll be allowed in. So we want you to know we're still sticking with 400 tickets every year. And this year, the tickets have been available for about 2.5 weeks. We've sold almost 50% of our tickets.
Wow,
So
that's amazing. Thank you very much, ma'am. I appreciate your comments, Andy.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope to see you there.
You bet. Thank you.
Marie Bushy, 809 East 24th Avenue. I just wanted to bring it to your attention that in many years ago, there used to be a person on city staff that, Lisa, help me remember, it wasn't an arborist, it was something on the...
Horticulturalist?
Yeah, something on the...
I think we wished for an environmentalist
Yeah.
or sustainability, but I don't know. We
Right.
did have an engineer who acted
Yeah.
as our environmental specialist.
So I would just like for the city at some point to possibly consider a position of that. We have many historic trees in our community that are often removed, and I think that if we had a person on staff that would work towards protecting that, it would go a long way for preserving our beautiful trees and other important native trees and plants. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Appreciate your comments. All right, Emily, this is your big chance. You can do it.
Okay, I'm going to go first. Hello again. My name is Amy Minetti at 646 Faulkner Street. Tonight you will make a decision with your vote on Ordinance 0325 that impacts many lives, whether they know it or not. The issue of making smoking and vaping illegal in these parks isn't just about annoyance, but protecting our health and our environment and our wildlife safety. I hope you had a chance to read the email that you should have received from Marine Discovery Center. In anticipation of a favorable outcome tonight, and because it's challenging for me to continue to be at these meetings if it does pass, I just would like to make some additional hopes be known. Please pardon my unfamiliarity with how a ban such as this, if it is passed, would be made known to the public. So just as the city could find someone for littering or not picking up their pets' waste, I would hope that there would be a similar penalty for smoking at parks and playgrounds. I believe this would support public awareness and help deter park smokers. Secondly, I hope that signage would be budgeted for to make this ordinance known throughout our parks. This may give non-smokers, once unwilling or too afraid to speak up to someone smoking around them, a voice. If this ban does go into effect, I would love to avoid conflict with smokers personally, and for there to be some big, bold signs that people can't miss to help with deterrence. Lastly, whether or not our hope comes true tonight, I think that our hardworking city maintenance workers should be setting a good example for the public and children by not smoking around playgrounds while on the job. Just yesterday morning, multiple workers were smoking around Manatee Playground while we were there with a playgroup that I organize. And unfortunately, this is a common occurrence, I am sad to say. So I don't want to tell anybody what they should or should not do with their health, but when it impacts my health or my children's health, I can't sit idly by. So banning smoking in public parks isn't about taking away anyone's rights. It's about safeguarding these shared spaces for everyone. Finally, on a bit of a separate note, but still very much in line with fostering a healthy community, I just wanted to state my support for the Utilities Commission's suggestion of removing fluoride in our water. I think that's coming up. So I hope we can choose cleaner air and unmedicated water to create a healthier community and a safer environment for future generations. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments.
Okay.
Without objection, we'll allow the second citizen on the topic to speak.
My name is Emily Minetti, and I'm almost 9 years old. I live at 646 Faulkner Street. I don't like when people smoke around me because when I suck in the smoke, it is the same thing as smoking. Also, when people smoke, it smells gross. People will smoke right next to me at the fireworks like it's okay. Another reason is that I'm a gymnast and it's important to keep my lungs clean. I don't want people to smoke around me because I don't want to die. Why should someone have the right to smoke around me? What about my right to clean air? I don't want to get killed. It is not good for them, but when they smoke around me, I don't have a choice. You can help protect me and my little sisters by making it illegal to smoke at parks. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Emily. Appreciate your remarks. Thank you, Mom. Appreciate it. Good evening, Kathleen.
Kathleen Sullivan Cockrell, 303 Rush Street, New Smyrna Beach. I'm going to just 2 comments. First off, I wanted to say thank you for the Black History Month proclamation. It's hitting closer to home this year because of some things that recently happened. Just 9 days ago, close to my sister's home in Oviedo, a historic church, I don't know if you all saw it on the news, St. James AME, African American church, that's now being made into the historic Oviedo Colored Schools Museum, was spray painted red with Nazi symbols and the words, the full words, F, U, and then the N word. Seminole County responded immediately. They painted over it, and it's still an active investigation and a hate crime. Secondly, we have a farm also in Kentucky, and I've recently got an invitation to the Trinity White Knights of the Ku Klux Klan Tri-State Conclave on Saturday the 15th. I guess they thought because I have a farm in Kentucky, I would want to go. There's 5 states involved, Indiana, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Ohio, and Tennessee. I almost threw up when it showed up on my phone, but until we don't have hate crimes and these type of invitations, it's really important. I don't know how many of you have been to the lovely Mary S. Harrell Black Heritage Museum. I believe it's
Kathleen.
Oh, sorry.
Right up here.
314 North Dust Street, I think.
Kathleen, talk to us.
I believe it's free admission. They do take donations, but I encourage everyone here to go. Take an hour of your day to go and support that. And then my second quick thing is involving the accident. I haven't been to a meeting in a while. I was encouraged that something is planned to calm the traffic on Washington, but it hasn't started yet. And I love that you put the 3-way stop at Canal and Live Oak. And I was just going to ask if it could be considered until that calming of the traffic project starts. Could they look into maybe a traffic engineering study at possibly making Faulkner and Washington a 4-way stop? I walk it every day, 3 times a day with my dog, and I'm yelling more and more at people, please slow down because it's dangerous. From US 1 to Riverside, they get up to over 40 miles an hour, big trucks pulling big boats, and it's scary. And yeah, it's dangerous. So anyhow, thank you for your time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else for public participation? Yes, sir. Come ahead, Mitch.
All right, forgive me, I'm nervous. It's my first time here. My name is Mitch Rice. I live at 2739 Tiffany Drive, New Smyrna Beach. I've lived in Central Florida my whole life. I've owned a couple homes here in New Smyrna Beach. I've recently been fortunate enough to move to New Smyrna Beach and become a resident, so I'm very grateful to live here and be here. I live out of Glencoe and pretty much the corner of Glencoe and Taylor. My concern is Taylor and Old Mission Road. I travel these 2 roads every day. I have a family of 4, and it's very concerning for the erosion that's taking place in these gutters and these ditches. The speed limit sign is leaning over into the ditch. Mailboxes are leaning over into the ditch. The road cannot be groomed because of the erosion on this road. And it is so, for me, it's one of the most dangerous roads I've been on in Central Florida, especially Old Mission Road between Josephine and Taylor. And another concern would be with the development that's going on that road with that Sandalwood condos that's being put up and the road not being addressed. That's just a big concern for me when my kids are going to start driving here in the next, say, 5 years. Okay, so that would be my piece I needed to share, and I really appreciate you listening. I'm surprised not more people are here because this is really something that needs to be addressed, this road, both roads. Taylor Road is even worse than Old Mission. I would really recommend all of you guys drive down these 2 roads if you don't drive down them, just to get your own perspective and understanding that you can't groom, the mowers can't mow. The mailman, it's super dangerous for the mailman to be trying to deliver to one mailbox in particular that's leaning over into the ditch. And another thing that I would also like to address are the mailboxes. And I know coming from a different county, their mailbox, I've seen a lot better mailbox situations in other counties than what we have down Taylor, down Glencoe, down all these roads. And I would ask for help from the city or whoever needs to help to address maybe some mailbox help. Because I know the people that live in my neighborhood, single moms, retired people, elderly lady that you know, they can't necessarily afford a lot of things. So I'm just here to ask for some help.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments.
Good evening. My name is Chris Rollins, and I live at 123 Via Capri. I'm here tonight to ask y'all for help and help solve an issue. It's an easy issue, in my opinion, to solve. But in my neighborhood, Venezia, which is right beside the Marine Discovery Center, the neighborhood was constructed in the 70s. The roads are very narrow. There are no sidewalks. The roads are, in some places, 18 feet wide. Service vehicles park on the road, on the drive lane on Quayasisi. They're allowed to stay there. And the speeding in the neighborhood is rampant. As a resident, I have no place to walk. My wife has no safe place to walk our pets or to walk out of the neighborhood because cars are, the speed limit's 25. Cars are easily in excess of 40 miles an hour. I've been in that neighborhood and paying attention for the last year. I have not seen one patrol car in that neighborhood. This is a very big concern. And in light of the accident this weekend, I would like to raise this awareness again. It's a very simple problem. I would like for the police force to actually patrol and monitor and manage, actively enforce the speed limit in that neighborhood. If they start writing tickets, people will slow down. No different than the city of Ponce Inlet. You know that when you're driving in their town, you will go the speed limit or you will get a ticket. No ifs, ands, or buts. I would also ask that we put the radar speed limit signs to help raise awareness in that neighborhood so that when people are speeding, they at least get something other than a resident telling them to slow down. Because all that's going to do is incite violence. I've heard it from all of the neighbors that they try and get cars to slow down. They'll swerve at them. They'll get angry. It is not a good situation, and it's very easily solved, and I'm asking y'all to help solve that problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rollins. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else for public participation? Evening, Bob.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, members. My name is Bob Baker. I live at 2245 Turnbull Bay Road, and I'm hoping this isn't too off the wall for this meeting. Some time ago, I was asked to speak to the Volusia County Traffic Planning Board, and not having much to say, I was relieved that the Daytona Beach News Journal that very morning had the front page, the entire front page, I-95 in Florida, south of St. Mary's River, I-95 in Florida is the most dangerous highway in America. Number 2 was LA Freeway. Number 3 was I-4. So I was going to come here and for another thing, and before I said this, I wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about. So I Googled the same information. Google got a little more specific, and Google says it's hard to define dangerous. So then it flipped and said, but the most dangerous highway in America based on traffic accidents per mile is Interstate 4. The most dangerous highway based on traffic fatalities per mile, and then it was fuzzy, is I-95 in Fort Lauderdale. It didn't blanket 95, but it didn't take it out of the picture either. A little bit fuzzy. So both of the studies came up with the same thing. ingress, egress points are very dangerous. But the Google study went further and said merging points are more deadly. So, the best thing that I think has happened in a long time is Williamson has gone all the way through to 40. You can move people, local people, to go shopping somewhere without getting on I-95. There's a lot of local people that the only way to get to Daytona to shop was get on 95 at Edgewater, and they ain't fit, some of them, including me, because I'm old. They can't drive 80 miles an hour. They can't drive 70 miles an hour. So that's a good thing. It needs to go, Williamson needs to go all the way, eventually, to Edgewater, 442. 415's catching up. It's a good deal. 95 is by statute an enclosed highway. We have turned into bending to every developer that wants an interchange to his little development. So we've turned 95 into a city street, 80 miles an hour. It's enclosed and it's dangerous. We need to move people north and south better than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate your comments.
Do I have any more time? I'd like
No, sir, your time's expired. You can come back next time, though. Happy to have you. Dr. Herman, welcome.
Mayor, City Commission, staff. I was so excited to hear the city manager talk about 120 Flagler. I've been involved over the years as a member of the Central Beach and the neighborhood council and a variety of different groups of the community that have met over the years as to how to best use that building. As we know, the Women's Center was badly neglected in many ways by the city, and this building is close to having the same problem because it's been vacant for so long. So I really applaud you specifically looking at it and coming up with a viable plan. I would ask you to look at the ingress and egress to that building because of the way it is situated. And the second thing is the sidewalk has never been completed there on Peninsula. And I think that would need to be done. Particularly the Wine Walk is always located there, and there are always a lot of pedestrians. And I know the all-walk cross that they've changed there has helped a lot. But if it's going to become an actual city building, I hope we look at safety and also how to maximize maybe the outside with a little bit of landscaping, maybe using the Florida plants that were suggested to make it really a beautiful spot because it is the gateway to our city. So I really applaud this initiative. It's been a long time coming. Secondly, I know you have quite a few excellent people to consider for the charter review, and I think that's really exciting that we have such talented people, and I hope each of you will select diverse folks to do this very important selective review of our charter. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else for public participation? Seeing none, public participation is now closed. And we'll move on to the consent agenda. Does any member of the commission wish to comment on any of the items A through H? One?
I
Got
have
one?
a question, yeah. I have a question on 7B.
7 Bravo. All righty, very good. All right, and I have just a comment. Anybody else with a comment? I have a comment on 7H to the AEDs. I'd like to thank the city manager, the fire department, the police department for taking time to explain the full process, and that was very helpful. Let the citizens know that every police unit on patrol will have a working AED. Every fire truck and every city building will have functional AEDs going forward. And 7B, yes, ma'am.
Ready for me? Oh.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Let's see here. The way it's written, it seems to suggest that public hearings occur after all quasi-judicial matters have been heard and voted on. And so where does the public comment on each item that's quasi-judicial?
At that item.
At that item, okay. So what is the difference between commenting on that item and public hearings versus public participation?
It's just like now, public comment covers, if you want to speak on consent items or administrative items or first reading ordinances, you do that under public comment. All the other ones.
I'm sorry, is public comment public participation or
So
public hearings?
So public participation, number 6.
Yeah.
Anybody who wants to address the commission for any topic at all, or consent agenda items, or administrative items, or ordinances first readings would participate under number 6, public participation.
And then what is expected in 10?
So for quasi-judicial hearings, they speak at that time. Public hearings, they speak at that time. So when that item's called, they would speak during the item.
So it's sort of like 9:10, 9:10, 9:10 if there are 3 quasi-judicials that night?
A quasi-judicial hearing is a public hearing. It's a different type of public hearing.
I'm just trying to, so what is under public hearings then?
Those would be your legislative decisions.
Okay, so legislative decisions go under public hearings. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Any other questions, comments? Very good. Any of my colleagues want to pull a particular item? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to approve item consent agenda items A through H, Alpha through Hotel.
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Perrine?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes, thank you. That's approved, and we'll move on to administrative business. We're going to talk a bit about the Charter Review Committee Facilitator. Madam City Attorney, your report, ma'am.
Yes, bear with me for 1 second. So consistent with the way we selected our charter review facilitator last time, I reached out to Lynn Tipton, who's with the Florida League of Cities. She's kind of the expert on charter review. Last time she gave me 3 names to get proposals from, and we ended up choosing Marilyn Crotty from the Florida Institute of Government at UCF. This time she gave me 3 new names. I reached out to each of them. 2 of them submitted a proposal, 1 did not. The 2 proposals before you, one was a reference for Alan Rosen, and you can see his proposal is for a not to exceed amount of $12,500. He has a partner with him. So they're going to tag team the charter review process. The proposals are very similar. The second one was from Susan Boyer, who is with the Benchmarking Consortium and a credentialed city manager. Hers is a bit more at $16,500. So they're both very similar. You have both of their Mr. Rosen's company had bios in each of his. Ms. Boyer provided her CV. They're both well qualified, so it's at your pleasure.
Appreciate that report. Any questions for the city attorney? I've read them, and I'd like to solicit your input for and recommendation, if you don't mind.
From what I can tell, Mr. Rosen has not done a charter review previously, but he does have a partner with some experience. Ms. Boyer is currently doing charter review in, I believe it's the city of Groveland. She's got a lot of city manager experience. So I think, I think one maybe has more experience than the other, Ms. Boyer. But they both would make fine candidates, especially with the reference from Ms. Tipton.
Very good. I appreciate the input. I'd entertain a motion to select a facilitator.
So moved.
I would entertain a motion to select one of the two facilitators.
Yeah, one or two. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to ask, I appreciate Carrie's recommendation. I wondered if our city manager also had a recommendation. That's all.
I do not. I have not studied the resumes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Commissioner McGurk.
Make a motion to accept Susan Boyer as our Charter Review Committee
I'll second
chair,
that.
or chairperson.
Very good. We have a motion and a second for Susan Boyer to be the facilitator of our Charter Review Committee. Any more discussion? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Perine,
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk,
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley,
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland.
Yes. The motion carries. Congratulations to Ms. Boyer. The City Attorney's Office will be in touch with you, ma'am. Thank you. So we're going to move on to ordinances, second readings, and public hearings. Item 9A is to conduct the second reading and a public hearing of an ordinance which is adopted would be the second extension of the temporary moratorium on issuance of certain building permits for Venetian Bay Phase 2. Madam City Attorney, would you read this ordinance 101-25 for the second time by title only, please?
Ordinance number 125, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach extending the temporary moratorium adopted by ordinance number 1724 and continued by ordinance number 3524 on the issuance of certain building permits for a section of Venetian Bay generally located north of State Road 44, east of Airport Road, and south of Medina Way that would impact the malfunctioning stormwater system for a period ending no later than July 22nd, 2025, unless automatically terminated or extended by a subsequent ordinance, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. We have our Development Services Director, Corbin, in the room. Mr. Corbin, we're ready for your report, sir.
Good evening. I'll be fairly brief since we spent time on this at the last meeting, but I did want to clarify a couple of points. I won't go through all the history on how we got here, but I'll jump to the diagram. This slide that explains to the right where the wetlands are, and then the blue rectangle is a symbol of the earthen weir, where if the wetlands on the right-hand side become saturated enough, that water level rises, and then it reaches that weir and spills out into the ponds on the left. I think what this diagram doesn't show on it, and I didn't realize it at the time when I was explaining it at the last meeting, there is a normal outfall on that pond, and it's near Airport Road. And so when it's functioning normally, so this diagram doesn't show it, but normally when that pond level rises, it will go to that outfall. I've got it circled in yellow there, and it will go into a pipe and go across the road into the ditch along Airport Road. That's how it normally functions. And it's designed to handle 9 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. So what's happening when that wetland gets wet enough, it's coming in faster than it can go out of that outfall and get into the ditch and go into Airport Road until the wetland draws down, and then it can be discharged out. So that's what's happening. And additionally, when you look at this phase 2, there are actually 5 different stormwater systems here, and that's what this slide shows. It shows these different systems of interconnected ponds, and each one of those systems has its own outfall that discharges into the ditch along Airport Road. So I just wanted to clarify that, and I'll take any questions if you've got any.
Any questions for our Development Services boss? Vice Mayor.
Yeah, if the pipe or the outflow was sufficient, could the ditch handle the amount of water?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like that line of questioning. Sean, is there an initiative to, can you get a bigger pipe? And would you entertain that?
They could, but that would be up to Venetian Bay. It's their system.
It's their pipe. Okay.
And we've got an inquiry into their engineer on where they're at with things, but we haven't heard back yet.
Really good. Just for the public, can you describe what event you would like to see, what needs to take place for the moratorium to be exhausted? What is it we're waiting on to make sure we've got this right?
So if they come into compliance with their warning letter with St. John, they're the state agency that does the big dog that does the permitting on this. And so if they come into compliance with St. John's, then that would satisfy it with us. I know there's a lot of concern about the commercial parcel behind the sign. If you look at this, you can see where that's labeled as 4. That's actually a separate system from 3. And 3 is where we're having the most trouble, and it's primarily built out.
Any other questions for Director Corbin?
I have a question.
Yes, sir. Mr. Ashley.
These systems that we're looking at, they're all gravity fed?
Yes.
Would it make sense to entertain any kind of force main?
Well, I know with Milton, they had a mobile pump out there. And so they were using that to pump the ponds down faster and to get either before the storm and then during the storm and after the storm, they had that pump on to accelerate the drawdown so it could recover quicker. But again, that's going to be a decision for Venetian Bay and their engineer to design a solution.
I saw that pump. That pump was a decision made by the HOA? I take
Yes.
it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Thank you, Shane. Appreciate the comments. Public hearing is now open. If there are any citizens who wish to speak on this topic, please approach the podium. You'll be heard. Similar rules to public participation will apply. We won't answer questions, but you'll be given 3 minutes. And when you come forward, your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Janet Hall, 106 Portofino Boulevard. As a resident in Portofino Gardens, I'm here to speak in support of the extension of the moratorium. We're grateful to the city and to the staff for their time and efforts in identifying the backflow from the wetlands that's contributing to the flooding and lack of drainage. As you're probably aware, the Portofino Gardens HOA has also been in communication with the St. John's Water District and taken other actions to seek a resolution of the recurring flooding and poor drainage in our community. Some limited progress has been made, including the Venetian Bay HOA stepping up on their ditch maintenance. However, it remains unclear who has the responsibility to fix the stormwater system and who will pay for it. It's not just about the stormwater, but how to repair the badly damaged roads as well. Since we understand there's no as-built study documenting the final stormwater construction plan, it's difficult to establish responsibility and a solution. Other concerns beyond the city study have been raised and talked about, that there's a broken canal system within these same wetlands, and that the airport road ditch is lower at the southern end, such that it does not drain after heavy rain. In my view, the moratorium should not be lifted until the recurrent flooding is resolved. Adding stormwater flow at any point will exacerbate the flooding and road damage. Assumptions about the existing stormwater system and ponds to absorb additional stormwater runoff cannot be relied on. I'm not an engineer, so it's difficult to make sense of the conflicting technical reports. But I don't need to be an engineer to know that water flows downhill by gravity and that we don't have much downhill in Florida. I have seen with my own eyes the flooding in our streets, the poor flow of the airport road ditch, which is the main drainage channel from our community, ultimately into Spruce Creek and the Intercoastal Waterway. While we may accomplish some mitigation, I remain uncertain of a full resolution. I'm not convinced that the airport road agricultural ditch is or ever was adequate to be relied on for drainage of the Venetian Bay community, especially when downstream levels rise due to heavy rainfall. Given this experience, I hope the commissioners will take on board what has emerged when considering future development. and the broader concern that our topography may not be right for large-scale urban development. You will have to forgive me for being skeptical that dumping the stormwater into the nearest ditch or wetlands without consideration for how it finally reaches the ocean or aquifers will yield a different result in the future. This moratorium offers one small opportunity to repair a broken system and not make it worse with further development. I support the extension, and I thank you again for your support with it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments. Order. All right, so folks, let's do it like we always do it. We understand it's an emotional issue, but please, no comments, no applause, no booing, any of that stuff. Let's let people talk to us, and we'll work our way through it.
Good evening.
Hello, Joe.
Joe Luback, Venetian Bay. First item is something that was brought up by James Hall some time ago about moratoriums in Venetian Bay. We seem to be doing things, and I don't know, this is the second or third extension that we've had for 12 months. His idea and proposal was to change that to a period of instead of 6 months, a full 12 months. That would get us, instead of just to the beginning of the rainy season, all the way through 12 months to see what was happening with our changes. Secondly, keep in mind that while this moratorium deals just with the problems down at Portofino Reserve, there are issues remaining continued throughout Venetian Bay, and we are in the process now of sending tons of photographs at the website that was provided at the moratorium at one time. I'm sorry, the workshop. Thirdly, it's not really clear where anybody has stated what the moratorium affects. It certainly doesn't affect residents. It doesn't affect phase 3 of the Palms, per se. The only thing it seems to affect are the 1 or 2 buildings down at the entrance to Venetian Bay, and it's a shame if that's all it really does. Next to the last, the county commission just went through an elaborate set of discussions, initiated to be a moratorium, but there were other solutions. And I'd just like to make sure that whatever we do here is consistent with what the county commission is doing. And lastly, with the explanation of the wetlands running into our water, it happened, and it's a HOA problem, that seems to be kind of unfair to the people who bought there, expecting their home to be safe, dry, and able to be used 24/7 for 10 years. And now they're finding this waterfall coming into there, and that just doesn't seem right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Are there others?
Richard Polo, 138 Portofino Boulevard in Portofino Reserve in Venetian Bay. Mr. Mayor, Commissioner, City staff, thank you for all that you do. Mentioned the Volusia County meeting. That meeting was 9.5 hours long due to 6 hours of citizen comments at 3 minutes apiece. Just goes to show you how important flooding is. Here's our hometown paper from 2 weeks ago, and I thought it was interesting that the headline was, Edgewater, the entire city, has been placed under a building moratorium. And the mayor is quoted as saying, we are doing something wrong. We don't know what we don't know. Admittedly, there were a lot of exceptions, but I would thank you because you have been ahead in this small issue of Venetian Bay of helping us. Now, it is no secret that our association, my previous colleague already spoke, we are suing the developer. And that took a lot of discussion because that reverberates and has and talks about your community. It's not a good thing. So I'll tell you what I think was a huge problem. And I am a professional engineer. It was the lack of as-built plans. I was in the Army Corps of Engineers for 26 years. We never paid a contractor without a final inspection and a submission of as-built plans. When I retired and then went to work for an engineering firm as a contractor, and I was finishing up the World Trade Center, the city refused to pay our last set of invoices. We're talking about millions of dollars, okay? Until we showed the as-built plans, and then we had an inspection tour, because there was no way that New York City could have Manhattan flood again if we had another Hurricane Sandy. And that project that was 10 years long, the last two buildings that I had to manage the construction, we had to make sure that the subways didn't flood. So most people don't understand how important those as-built plans are. So we can't find them here. And if they had been inspected, and I asked the city manager in all future projects, because development will continue, that you make sure that all the inspections are conducted. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate your comments. Thank you for stepping forward.
Dave Aiden, 110 Portofino. I went to the zoning and planning meeting, and I've heard others talk about the flooding issue in Portofino Reserve. I'm just a little bit concerned when the questions come back and they say, well, what's the solution? What are we waiting on to lift the moratorium? And what I keep hearing is, well, whenever Venetian Bay HOA completes what they're supposed to complete. Well, unless I'm mistaken, the wetlands belongs to New Smyrna Beach. The canal that overflows belongs to New Smyrna Beach. And if I'm incorrect in that, then Shane can correct me on that. Also at that last meeting, it said that two weirs either could not be found over on that side of the land, or they weren't built. There's no way of proving either they were built and overgrown or not built and inspected and not found. So to say merely that, well, we're waiting on the Venetian Bay HOA to come up with a solution, I don't think is the correct solution that we should be hearing, because it's a lot more than just GeoSam. And let's be honest, it's not the Venetian Bay HOA, it's GeoSam, because he has 4 members of that board, okay? 3 of them are residents and 4 of them are his employees. So it's not the residents of Venetian Bay. It is a developer who didn't do his job when he built it in the first place. The second thing I'd like to say, you made the comment, well, could we get a bigger pipe? The bigger pipe is not going to solve the problem until you get the elevation correct and the water running downhill. Because all it's going to do is backfill up, because the water can't go down uphill and fall into the canal with the bigger pipe. It's the same thing that happens down when you get down to the intercoastal and the hurricanes come. When the water backs it up into the canal, there's no way a bigger pipe is going to go over the tidal flow coming back. It's the same concept. The other thing I'd like to say is I've been told, and I don't know if it's true or not, I hope it's not, that phase 6 of the Palms, that all the home sites there are building 12 to 15 inches higher than the Palms section 5 and forward. During the Volusia County meeting, they were talked about the Florida law, where water flowing into a development's got to flow out just like it did before construction was built. And I'm concerned if we keep building these subdivisions higher and higher, that those who have already been built are going to end up with the worst end of it, because the water's going to run downhill. So if that is the case, I hope we relook that before we make another big mistake like that. I did go to that Volusia County meeting. It was a good meeting, and I appreciate you extend the moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else for public participation? Seeing none, public participation is now closed. All right. Any of my colleagues wish to comment or have a discussion on this before we vote? So I think we owe the public a word. We're hearing you. It's been said from this dais before, it's not a one and done. This will be many steps to get the entire Venetian Bay project under control. It is a part of the master plan. The master plan will dovetail into the county's master plan. More comments on that later. I might ask Director Corbin, what is the forcing function so that we just don't wait on a ticking clock? What is going to make this get in gear, and the GeoSam ownership, Venetian Bay Homeowner Association, how do we advance that timeline, and what should we expect, and do we have a role in pushing that along?
I've talked with engineering about this quite a bit. They're waiting on St. John's to see what the letter says and if they come into compliance. And typically, it's not an enforcement function that we would take the lead on. Typically, it would be St. John's. Now, if we choose to do something new or do something different, then we could look at a code enforcement function. Of course, we'd have to work pretty closely with the city attorney's office and the city manager to get direction from him.
So let's unpack that a little bit. The first comment was that there is action that's been taken, and we're waiting for St. John's River Management Authority to accept that as
That's
corrective?
correct. Yeah. So
And that's their plan. They haven't done anything yet. That's accept their plan.
Well, they have to come into compliance with the warning letter first. Then the next step would be if they want to make any physical changes to the system, for instance, to fill in that weir or raise the berm or something like that, then they have to amend their existing permit with St. John's, and they'll be using all of the modeling data that we produced in order to amend that permit.
What governing body does St. John's River Management report to?
It's a state agency.
What levers do we have with the state? Is it only through our contacts at Senator Wright or Representative Tremont, or are there others?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
The issue of whether the city owns the wetlands or the canal, could you clarify that for us, please?
We do not own the wetlands or the canal. And on the plats, it establishes that the stormwater drainage system is operated and maintained by the HOA.
Thank
so
you.
technically, it's their infrastructure. So I don't know. I'm not sure what authority we would have to go in and actually make any adjustments to it.
That's okay. I was surprised, and I just wanted to clarify for everybody that we do not own that.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Mr. Ashley.
Are we, all of us, waiting for someone to do something so that we find out what exactly has happened, so that the St. John's Water River Management District blesses whatever has been done? Are we waiting for someone
Yes.
from that organization?
Yes.
Okay, so from that question, who is doing what? Who are we looking at?
So the Venetian Bay HOA has their own engineer who's been working on this, put together as-built, and has responded to the warning letter. And so it's sitting with St. John's. We've put an inquiry into their engineer to keep us up to speed on what's happening. We're also checking St. John's website on a daily basis for the permits to see if there's any updated documents. So we're watching it pretty close.
So I want to represent the confusion in the room that a lot of people feel. So when you say the HOA, some people think the people of the HOA, and other people think only GeoSam. So the engineer that is working on something, did GeoSam hire an engineer? Did the HOA hire an engineer? I've heard both. So
Well, I guess people are saying they're one and the same because GeoSam has the controlling majority of the HOA board. I believe there's 7.
Yes, yes.
And GeoSam has 4 people on that, so technically they've got the majority.
So I'm confused by the sub-HOA.
So Portofino also has an HOA.
They have an engineer too, I think. Maybe they don't.
They had a surveyor, might have been an engineer, that actually went and shot the airport road ditch and did the elevations on that, which we did incorporate into our modeling efforts. So we used their information. We also use information from the other engineer that's working with the main HOA on the system as well. So we incorporated all of that data into our modeling.
So if we extend the moratorium, or if we don't extend the moratorium, is there a deadline? Let's say we don't extend the moratorium. When does it end? In a couple of days or something?
I assume it would end immediately.
Okay, so let's say, so if we extend the moratorium again, is that like putting the homework off again? I mean, how do we get this thing done fast? Everybody wants it, you know, and I've been at a few meetings now where we're waiting and waiting and waiting. So I want to know who to jump on, you know. So.
Technically, it's not our infrastructure, and,
I understand.
and they have their own engineer working on it.
Us, jump on,
Well,
whoever.
There's 2 points of view, and I want to ask Shane a question. In the St. John's letter of warning and noncompliance, there's nothing in that conditions that requires them to make any physical improvements, is that correct?
Not at this time.
So the warning letter and the things they have to comply with does not include the physical improvements to correct the situation. There were issues with the as-built drawings and other administrative issues in complying with their permit requirements. But the deficiencies in the letter does not require GeoSam, AKA the HOA, to make any physical improvements. There's 2 points of view on how they can come into compliance with the St. John's letter, not make the improvements. The question I think everybody's trying to drive at, what steps are taken to necessitate and force them to make the physical improvements? My belief at this point, St. John's can do that, or the city can do that as the enforcing body of the MDA. And the MDA was drawn up that they had to design a system that handles 9 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. And at this point, because of the changes in circumstances, it doesn't do that. So there's one of 2 ways that it can be addressed. We can ask St. John's to do the enforcement activity in terms of noncompliance with the design permit and the functionality, or the city can do it in conjunction with or separate of St. John's as an enforcing body in terms of enforcing the terms of the MDA. That's my belief. I'll defer to the attorney if she thinks that's correct.
Really helpful. Thank you, Mr. Niebert. So I think, City Attorney, we're looking for expediency. You can feel it in the public. What is your recommendation? To join with or encourage the St. Johns River Management Authority to do their thing, or for us to lead the way and put a stake in the ground? I'm looking for your professional advice, not degree of difficulty, because it doesn't matter anymore. Those guys have been flooding for a long time, and they're ready for us to move, regardless of how much work it takes on our behalf.
I think I'm going to need more time to think about that. I can't give you an answer off the cuff.
Reasonable, very reasonable. So if, without objection, I'd like to direct the city staff to come back at the very next meeting and have some of this stuff figured out. And if your advice, Mr. Cowper, is that we should, as the electeds, reach out to our colleagues that are at the state level, we're happy to do that. We just want to do all that is in our power to support the folks that have been suffering for so doggone long. And as Commissioner Ashley says, get over the waiting and get on to the doing. Mr. McGirt.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not sure who's going to be able to answer this, but I'm trying to get some clarification. We have an HOA, and we have GeoSam. GeoSam is a development company. The HOA, I understand, stacks the HOA board. but the HOA should be its own independent entity. So I understand, so I guess some of the conversation I'm hearing seems to think that, or what it's implying is, because GeoSam stacks the HOA, it is GeoSam. But I'm just looking for some clarity within that discussion, because I don't think that implication is accurate, because the HOA is its own entity. Although it is stacked disproportionately with people who may make rulings or determinations that may favor GeoSam, they're two totally different entities. So when the question is asked, who hired the engineer? And someone said, well, the HOA, GeoSam. They're two different entities. Do we know who has hired engineers? Has the actual HOA board hired an engineer? Okay. Good. Because I think the details of that gets lost in some of the discussion, assuming that the HOA is GeoSam. Thank you.
So I'm not any more clear after you got your answer that you're happy with, so let me think this through. The residents would love for GeoSam to be gone, but with them goes the money and the responsibility. So they would love them to take, the citizens out there want the majority, they want to take it over. But the caveat with that is, as soon as you do, you own the problem. Right. I begged them to go the other way and say, let us get all this fixed before the trigger trips, and I don't know whether it's what percent of the ownership is or the units sold, whatever that number is, before they are allowed to step aside. But you just can't turn it over in a broken condition, because then it is on the backs of all those folks that are there. So GeoSam's driving by statute of 4-3 of the consistency of the board, but they're calling the shots. They're carrying the weight.
Yeah, and that's a concern. I agree with you. You know, if GeoSam has stacked the board, and then the board makes a decision to release GeoSam and take on those responsibilities, it's a huge problem. But my clarification was simply, GeoSam is a separate development company than the actual HOA board, although the board is stacked with GeoSam people. So, and I agree with you, Mayor, 100%. The last thing the residents want to do is get stuck with this kind of bill.
So, Mr. Ashley, I cut you off. Are you finished, sir? Or do you want some more?
You brought up a comment that has recently come up in conversations that I've had with local people on a few of the boards that are out there, which there are a few boards out there, not just one. There's an overall board and then a lot of sub-boards, and there's a business HOA too. So you mentioned at some point GeoSam needs to turn over to the residents the HOA when they get to a certain percentage. And for the first time in conversations a few days ago, there seemed to be a question about what GeoSam is doing and kind of moving the goalposts. And that surprised me, because I thought we were close to 90% and the turnover is close to 90%. But I've had a few conversations lately where, well, we're not so sure because GeoSam did this or that and the other thing. And now we don't know whether we're close to 90% or not yet. And I would ask maybe Carrie if you can, I don't know how to find that information. I mean, where is that rule book? And who is the bird dog on that rule book?
I mean, the HOA should be able to provide the documents to the HOA members.
In spite of what Jason said, the people who populate the HOA, they're all GeoSam people. And they stall and they stonewall and they delay like mad. And nobody gets a straight answer.
Can I ask a question?
Commissioner Martin.
Aren't the documents associated with it public record of some sort?
Lisa?
No? Okay.
Well, you should see the documents. I was on the transition board document subcommittee. The documents for Venetian Bay are literally 2 feet thick. Amendment upon amendment on amendment, all done in paper. Mm-hmm. All re-amended and redid. I mean, it's nuts. And so I quit and did this because it was easier.
Any other comments from the dais? Yes, Commissioner
I
Perrine.
just have a question on the moratorium. I know it's a thing that we need to look at, but what are our hopes in doing this? What are we going to achieve from doing this with GeoSam, with the MDA, if we go that route? How is this going to help the citizens by doing this?
I think the fear is that we would allow additional building and impervious surface to go out into the system, and therefore it would increase the flooding potential.
But there's very few that this is going to even impact with that. Like,
That's correct.
so it does, but it doesn't. It's just a very minor area that it's, I mean, anything helps, but in reality, it's not going to be that much to get them to move along quicker by our decision tonight. I think we have to, in my opinion, I'm going to do it just for that, but I would rather have some information of what it's going to achieve more than just, is it going to impact GeoSam to move faster? Or St. John's?
There's two building sites that it primarily is going to impact, and that will be the commercial lot behind the sign at the entrance of Airport Road. And the club is also looking at adding a facility out there and some parking, and they won't be able to do that as long as we've got this moratorium in place.
And the club is GeoSam?
No, the club is private owner.
So that's not going to help
That's correct.
us
I
with
think
that.
they own the commercial lot behind the sign as well.
So
I think it's the same owner.
No impact then for GeoSam.
That's right.
Yes, Sam. Commissioner Martin.
Just clarifying, my understanding is that the moratorium applies to any area that does not have a pre-approved site plan. Is that correct?
That's correct. We're single family.
Okay.
The single family is up in the northern part of Phase 2, and that system, I can pull it back up, it's completely separate from, can we pull that back up?
What I was looking at was that it seemed like the moratorium only applies to the commercial area that is, and I could have missed it getting a site plan approved, but is there anything approved for the club and?
No, there's nothing approved.
And that's mainly where the impact would be, that we can't move forward with a site plan on that area. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
So if I may, Mr.
Sure.
Mayor, just a couple of quick things. We understand that we have a system that isn't necessarily functioning correctly. As of about a month or so ago, we've used our resources at the city to study this and to figure out what the problems are and to make some suggestions of how to correct those problems. Our expectation is that those issues will be resolved in a reasonable period of time. If they're not, then we'll be prepared to take whatever kind of code enforcement action that's available to us to make that happen. And we'll evaluate what our various options are and take the best course of action that we can. I don't know how else to say that, but we're prepared to do whatever we need to do to bring this into compliance.
That's comforting to have your words on that. I think maybe we're thinking of this moratorium as a forcing function, and unless we make it painful, they won't jump, they won't move. And I don't know if that's the legal gymnastics behind that, Madam City Attorney, but I would sure like to do something that moves the dial here on behalf of the residents by us. And so if whatever that solution is you have in mind, we'd love to hear about it next time we get together.
Yes, sir, and it may take more than next time, but I think the first course of action here is to go ahead and extend this moratorium. That's what the staff is recommending, and we'll continue to monitor and take whatever action is appropriate.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And thank you, Director Corbin. Appreciate your words on that. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance number 0125?
So moved.
Second. Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Perrine?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes, 0125 is adopted. All right, moving on to item 9B, second reading of an ordinance which, if adopted, would propose a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment to future use map from an industrial mixed use to industrial on approximately 1.43 acres. Madam City Attorney, would you read ordinance 0225 for the second time by title only, please?
Ordinance number 0225, an ordinance amending the City of New Smyrna Beach Comprehensive Plan, changing the future land use designation of 1.4 plus or minus acres of property generally located on the north side of State Road 44, east of South Myrtle Avenue and west of the Florida East Coast Railway, from city industrial mixed use to city industrial, providing for amendment of the associated comprehensive plan maps, providing for public hearings, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Senior Planner Mathan, we're ready for your report, sir.
Yes, sir. So the parcel contains approximately 1.43 plus or minus acres of land. It is north of State Road 44, east of South Myrtle Avenue, west of the Florida East Coast Railway. So the parcel is zoned I-1, light industrial. The parcel is vacant, and it is next to a mature residential neighborhood and an assisted living facility. The current parcel conforms in width, length, and size for that I-1 zoning district. So the applicant has requested that a future land use category be changed from industrial mixed use to industrial. And I've attached the current zoning map. The existing residential neighborhood that's located to the north has a zoning of R5, multifamily residential. The property located to the west is a commercial assisted living facility zoned to PUD, and the property located to the east and the south is zoned I-1 light industrial. So as you can see in this exhibit, the I-1 light industrial zoning district has many permitted uses that are not normally located in a residential or a commercial zoning district. There are 8 permitted uses that the applicant has proposed to restrict on this parcel. Those uses are shown in bold. The restricted uses include adult entertainment establishment, animal hospital, automotive repair, boat building, repair and sales, light machine shops, paint and body shops, recycling centers, and service stations. And the applicant has proposed to record a declaration of restricted covenants to prohibit those uses. So here's a copy of the current future land use map that shows high density residential to the north, and industrial mixed use to the east, to the west, and to the south. So the purpose of the land use category is to promote a sustainable development or redevelopment of land near railways or major road highways and in close proximity to canal streets, downtown neighborhood, by providing a maximum opportunity for innovative site planning for living, shopping, and working environments. Areas that are designated as industrial mixed use are intended to accommodate a mix of light industrial, research, office, retail, medium to high density residential uses. Areas designated as industrial mixed use are required to develop using a plan unit development format or be rezoned to a PUD. So the maximum density currently for this industrial mixed use is 40 dwelling units per acre. It's up to 75 transient lodging units per acre, and the maximum floor area ratio, or FAR, is 6.50. So the planning department has provided what would a proposed future land use map would show if this parcel with a new future land use category of industrial, if it's approved by the City Commission. That industrial future land use is designed for activities that are predominantly connected with manufacturing, assembly, processing, packaging, research, or storage of products. Additional permitted uses in such areas include warehousing, wholesale activity, machine repair, and construction that's not suitable for either residential or a commercial district. Also, adequate buffering should be provided from adjacent land uses and transitional uses such as office or commercial uses, and they should be provided between an industrial and residential area. Also, the maximum FAR for industrial future land use is only 2.0. So what's the differences? The difference between the two future land uses, the current industrial mixed use does have that maximum density unit of 40 dwelling units per acre. We estimate it to be about 57 units. They could have up to 75 transient lodging units per acre, So we're estimating about 108 units. And also they can do a maximum floor area of 6.50, which would be 6.5 times the size of the property. If it's changed to industrial mixed use category, then there'd be no dwelling or transient use in that category. Also, the maximum floor to area ratio would be reduced to 2.0. So the applicant did provide a conceptual plan of a single-story U-shaped building that would be located at least 30 or more feet from that residential zoned neighborhood. And as you can see on this enlarged section of that conceptual plan, access to the site would be from Citron Street with an additional possible emergency access from the assisted living facility. Stormwater retention would be located to the south, and you'd have required landscape buffers along all of the perimeters. So under the Land Development Regulations, Section 305, Paragraph 1, Subparagraph C, the Planning Department is tasked to verify if it's consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and the city's land development regulations. So under the land development regulation, under section 504.02, the I-1 light industrial zoning district would be compatible with that proposed industrial future land use category. The I-1 light industrial zoning district has permitted uses that would be consistent with the intent of the industrial future land use category. So the planning department researched the city's comprehensive plan, and we found consistency under element 2, which is future land use element, and the element 15, which is the economic development element. The following goals that would support the request are as follows. Under the future land use element, goal number 2, it'd be done by objective 1, 2, and 3. Goal number 4, objective 1. Also goal number 5, objective 3. Also goal number 9. And then under the economic development element, it would reach goal number 1. So in summary, the applicant has requested a change of the future land use category from industrial mixed use to industrial. And at its regular scheduled meeting back on December the 2nd, 2024, the Planning and Zoning Board voted 5-0 to give the City Commission a positive recommendation to approve the requested small-scale comprehensive plan amendment with the declaration of restricted covenants. So after evaluating the merits of the application, the Planning Department recommends that the City Commission approve the requested decrease in overall density and the reduction of the floor to area ratio by changing the future land use from industrial mixed use to industrial with a declaration of restricted covenants, restricting those following permitted uses based on the location of the parcel to a residential neighborhood, assisted living facility, and the access that will be needed off of a local road. And that's a condensed summary of the staff report. It's over 29 pages, including illustrated and exhibits. Subject to any questions the commission has. Also, the applicant representative is here tonight to answer questions.
Any questions for Mr. Mathan?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
thank you. Any provisions for I see that the antique automobiles refer to noxious fumes, and I'm wondering if the property can prohibit noxious fumes and heavy particle emissions.
Okay. So whenever a business wants to go into this location, the property owner is going to construct a building and I guess lease out the different units. Under the I-1 zoning, they're required to submit to the city by an engineer to let us know that it meets the state requirements for noise, odor, smells, particles. So there's a long list, radioactive materials. So there's a long list in that I-1 zoning district that requires that whenever they submit for their BTR or any type of individual plan.
I noticed it specifically called out for the antique automobile repair on page 2 of the declaration. And so having it specifically called out for one building with one type sort of would lead me to believe that, you know, either wouldn't the legal requirements that you just mentioned take care of that? Why is it needed to have this specifically spelled out here?
So the applicant probably can answer the question better, but from what I understand is they did not want to have a general service shop there. So somebody who would bring their car there to have work on oil changes, that was going to be restricted. But what they didn't want to restrict was the individual that may want to have their own classic car that they want to repair or they may be working on, and not restrict that individual tenant from their own personal car that they may be working on, but not have a shop where you have outside car owners bringing in their cars to be repaired. Which would be a lot larger scale, a lot more activity.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm delighted to see the request for no noxious fumes, but it does sort of lead one to assume this business can't have noxious fumes, but any other kind of business can. So you see my point. If you only, if you're isolating it that way.
Right, and the agreement was drafted by the applicant. So I'm sure he can respond whenever it's his turn.
Any other questions for the senior planner? Thank you, Mr. Mathan. Appreciate that. Is the applicant present and wish to speak? Mr. Storch, just your name and address for the record, sir.
All right. Did you walk through that? You can put it up if you want to, but
I'll put it up in case you need it.
maybe one map I want to show. All right. So for the record, my name is Glenn Storch, 420 South Nova Road, Daytona Beach, Florida. First of all, it's been suggested I don't want to do a PowerPoint. I want to just minimize my presentation tonight because honestly, this is something in which the staff and the landowner should be proud of. They've worked very closely with the residents, the neighborhood. They've worked very closely with the Lexington adult congregate living facilities on this site. This is an unusual piece of property. It's a remnant site, 1.43 acres. It was a remnant site from the old FEC property. The problem was in this case that it was a large piece of property owned by FEC, Florida East Coast Railroad. About 15 to 20 years ago, Florida East Coast Railroad and the city amended the comp plan to allow for this area to be called industrial mixed use, with the idea to encourage additional uses other than just industrial uses on the site. That's all fine and good. The problem is that on this side of 44, once you have the Lexington, whatever it's called, Lexington
Place.
Yes, Lexington Place, that's right. I did that, I should remember that. Once you had a Lexington Place in place, all you had left was this small 1.3 acre parcel directly next to the railroad tracks. We're not changing the zoning. The zoning is still industrial as it's been almost for 100 years. But because of the fact that we changed the comp plan from industrial to industrial mixed use, it created additional standards and also additional entitlements. The entitlements, as Bob indicated, were much higher potential residential density. In fact, you could have residential density, much higher hotel density, much higher FAR, which is, FAR is non-residential square footage. And in this particular case, when it's a 6.5 FAR, that means 6.5 times 1.43 acres. That's how much floor area you can have on this site. It doesn't make sense on a site this size. You just really shouldn't be able to do that. And so the staff and the landowner took this as an opportunity to solve problems, to solve a bunch of problems. So one, let's figure out how to solve the problem of what you can do on the site without having to go through a PUD and having to go through all these things and having to look at all those densities and intensities that you're entitled to. If you simply changed the comp plan back to what it was, which was industrial, then you lower the FAR, you take away the residential uses, and you take away the hotel uses on that particular site. But at the same time, what that did, and this is why we talked to the neighbors, what it did is you still had on your industrial zoning, you still had potential uses that were potentially noxious, that were concerning to the neighborhood. And so we worked with the neighborhood to do something that actually will help them, not just for today, but forever. We worked to create a a restrictive covenant that we'll place on the property that will run forever. It's a perpetual restrictive covenant. So once this is recorded, this can never be changed as far as these uses without the specific approval of, we have two residents that were spearheading this, two residents, their approval or their successors in interest from their properties. So that's how we dealt with this. And those uses were all these things. We talked about the idea of, they talked about the idea we want to try to prevent noxious uses. Now, as to Commissioner Martin's concerns, said business shall comply with the standards for avoidance of noxious fumes and smoke provided within the I-1 criteria. You're right. We can do that for everything. Well, there's an I-1 criteria for noxious fumes. We'll simply agree that this is also going to be for all uses, not just this one use.
As well as whatever you call the heavy emissions. I'm thinking of the concrete crushing plant that, with the dust in the air.
Yeah.
So I don't know how what the appropriate
Yeah.
term is for heavy emissions,
Well,
airborne.
what we did is we tried to take out all those uses out of our entitlements.
As always and ever, we don't know what's going to
but-
come up in
but I
5
have-
or 10 years.
But I have no problem with saying, and what was your words? What was your word?
Noxious fumes and what, heavy airborne emissions? I don't know, that can't be the right term. Anybody?
Particulate matter.
Good one.
All right, so heavy particulate matter.
Yes, airborne particulate matter. Because
All
what
right.
we're looking at is having this all blowing around.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. And again,
And if we
you've got
did that-
standards, you already have standards in the I-1 classification to provide for those. So I have no problem with adding that to this. Now, based on my stipulations at the planning board, I told them I would have this done and signed and ready to be provided to you for recording upon approval. So that's what we've done. But I can amend that with your approval based on what we just talked about.
Any other comments or questions for Mr. Storch?
Nope.
Anything else, Glenn?
But I think I've tried to solve the neighborhood's problem, I've tried to solve the landowner's problem. This will allow this family that's from New Smyrna to actually use the land and provide a business for the city.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Public hearing is now open. Are there any citizens who wish to speak on this topic? Please approach the podium. You'll be heard. Seeing none, public participation is now closed. Any other discussion by my colleagues? Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 0225?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam City Clerk, please call roll.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Perine?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes, so motion carries. We're going on to 9C, which is ordinance number 0325. It's a second reading and public hearing about the prohibiting smoking and vaping in city parks. Madam City Attorney, if you'll read 0325 for the second time by title only, please.
Ordinance number 0325, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the Code of Ordinances, amending Chapter 58, Parks and Recreation, Section 58.2, hours established for use of parks and recreation areas, to revise park rules to prohibit smoking and vaping, providing for codification, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Would you set this up, please, Madam Attorney?
Sure. Prior to 2022, the state of Florida specifically preempted cities from being able to regulate smoking. In 2022, they amended the language, and the city may now regulate smoking and vaping, but not unfiltered cigars in public parks and recreation areas. So that led us to this amendment here. The amendment has signage. The standard park signage will say no smoking or vaping. And that's before you tonight.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Is there any questions from my colleagues, the city attorney? Yes, ma'am.
I see in this, the details where the city is going to place the signs, and there's an example of that, but I don't see anywhere where it does talk about the fees. Can you let us know if there are fees attached to this?
The city makes their own signs, so they would update their signage.
No, I see that in the example here, you've got samples of that within the details. But I'm wondering, what about fees if somebody is
Fines.
violating?
Oh,
fines?
enforcement. So we have general enforcement provisions. It would be like any other park violations. If the officers see it, they can write a ticket. So it's under our general enforcement
It falls
provision.
under general
Yes.
enforcement. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a question. I know it's just unfortunate that unfiltered cigars are exempted apparently by state regulation, correct?
Correct.
So, don't know what we can do about them.
Public hearing is now open. Are there any citizens who wish to speak on this topic? Please approach the podium and you'll be heard. Seeing none, public participation is now closed. Public hearing is now closed. Any further discussion by my colleagues? Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 0325?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Ashley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Perrine,
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk,
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland.
Yes, motion carries. On to Section 10, ordinances and first readings. The ordinance 5124 is the first reading, which if adopted upon the second reading and public hearing would rezone approximately 1,618 acres located south of State Road 44, west of 95, known as Deering Park. The applicant's attorney has requested that this item will be continued to a regular commission meeting scheduled on 22 April 2025. So stay tuned for that.
I just need to go through reading it and continuing it.
Would you read
So,
it, please, ma'am?
sure. Ordinance number 5124, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach rezoning 1,618 acres of property located south of State Road 44 and west of I-95 from A1 Prime Agriculture, Forestry, Resource, and Conservation to Planned Unit Development, approving the Deering Park Innovation Center at New Smyrna Beach Planned Unit Development Master Development Agreement, authorizing the mayor to execute the Deering Park Innovation Center at New Smyrna Beach Planned Unit Development Master Development Agreement, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. We need a motion to continue it to April 22nd, 2025, and then I'll do the statutory language for continuation.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Is there a motion to continue
So
this to the 22nd of April? I hear a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Perrine,
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk,
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland.
Yes, motion carries. Back to the city attorney.
Yes, this item will be continued on first reading to the April 22nd, 2025 regular city commission meeting held at 214 Sam's Avenue, New Smyrna Beach, Florida at 6:30 p.m. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. On to item 10B, ordinance 0425, which would be the first reading of an ordinance which, if adopted upon second reading and public hearing, would grant a non-exclusive franchise agreement to Closer and Sons from Edgewater Recycling. Madam City Attorney, if you'll read 0425 for the first time by title only, please. Second reading will be on February 11th.
Ordinance number 425, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach granting a non-exclusive franchise to Clure and Sons, Inc., doing business as Edgewater Recycling to provide construction and demolition debris removal services within the City of New Smyrna Beach, outlining franchisees' duties, providing terms and conditions under which such franchise shall operate, providing for severability, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing, February 11th, 2025.
Thank you, ma'am. On to item 10C, which is ordinance 0525. We'll conduct the first reading of this ordinance, which, if adopted upon the second reading and public hearing, would grant a non-exclusive franchise agreement to Brad Concrete. The city attorney will read 0525 for the first time by title only. The second reading will be February 11th.
Ordinance number 525, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach granting a non-exclusive franchise to Brad's Concrete, Inc. to provide construction and demolition debris removal services within the City of New Smyrna Beach, outlining franchisees' duties, providing terms and conditions under which such franchise shall operate, providing for severability, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date. Second reading, public hearing will be February 11th, 2025.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. On to item 10D, which is ordinance 0625. Conduct a first reading of an ordinance which, if adopted upon second reading and public hearing, would approve text amendments to Article 6 of the Land Development Regulation. If the city attorney would read 0625 for the first time only. Second reading will be conducted on February 11th.
Ordinance number 0625, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the Land Development Regulations, amending Article 6, Development Design and Improvement Standards, Section 60401, Stormwater Management and Drainage, to update the Stormwater Land Development Regulations, providing for codification, providing for public hearings, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be February 11th, 2025.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Sir?
I was thinking we were going to have a presentation on that by Mr. Corbin. Here comes Kyle.
Here comes Kyle.
Kyle? Yes, there we go. Kyle, I think you're up, sir.
Timing's impeccable. The city engineer timing, perfect.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. As you heard this evening, and as we all know, flooding and stormwater concerns are at the forefront of this community, right? So we have been working with one of our consultants, engineering consultants, for almost 2 years now to put together a comprehensive package and LDR regulations, and I think we've done that, and I think it's going to be a model that others will follow. These guidelines were approved by the Planning and Zoning Board. They did have a lot of questions. They actually had a lot of good darn questions. They asked to define seasonal high water levels. They asked definitions of tailwater, and that's all been placed in here. They also asked for more reinforcement language, enforcement language. So we have added enforcement language. So that's a key component as well. And we know this is a dynamic document, and it changes. So they also requested that we put in there ongoing review. So we added language that at a minimum, once every 2 years, these LDRs have to be reviewed. I do have a presentation for you, if I can get out of here. This is on the railroad land. Where's the exit on this thing? Sharon, do you know how to get out of this?
Just hit escape and it should.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. I will try to be brief on this. The LDR, this presentation is just a synopsis of the key elements of, I think, the most important items within the revisions. For example, if you look at the actual LDR package, the first 4 pages alone are definitions. So it's a glossary of words to rid of any ambiguities or any questions they may have. You have definitions of what does attenuation mean? What's a floodway versus a floodplain, for example? How does New Smyrna Beach treat compensating storage, right? So it's all defined in there. So that's a key element that's not in this presentation tonight. There's also some technical guidelines that we have placed in these requirements that actually tie a specific rain event to a storm event. For example, a mean annual storm, a 25-year, 24-hour storm event would be 9.5 inches. You have a 100-year, 72-hour event, 13 inches. We have specific rain events in a table. So that way, when you have a developer that comes in, different engineers, different developers, they all need to be consistent and use these values, which are more stringent than we have today. So I'll go ahead and go through the slides. The timeline just shows the events that led up to this evening. As I mentioned earlier, We have been working with Parker Mitchburg and Associates. They reached out and looked at all the surrounding cities in Volusia County. What are their guidelines? State agencies, DEP, St. John's, et cetera. So we've incorporated all the best guidelines into our document as well. And this just shows the chronological order of all the events up to the draft, all the way up to PZ approval. And then, of course, this evening's the last line item for the first hearing of these LDR regulations. Some of the LDR regulations, as far as the definitions, as I mentioned, the hydrographs shown on here are just for the 25-year, 24-hour, 100-year, 24-hour storm event. So this shows where we got the 9.5 inches and the 13 inches rain events from. So these are driven, scientifically given numbers from the Water Management District, which is one of the 5 water management districts that governs Volusia County. All right, the next item is, this is just for reference. When people talk about level of service, what does that mean? Obviously, level of service of A is the best. The system is working. It's containing within the capacity of the stormwater management system. It's not overflowing. Service level B, the system still works. It appears it's saturated, it's full. So it is overflowing. It's just at the tip of the swale in the ditch line, but there's full access to the roadway and there's no structural flooding. Service level C, which is not desirable, but is still acceptable. There's no structural flooding. It's just overland flooding, and the system is being overwhelmed for whatever design event, but there is no flooding of the habitable space. And you can see level D is unacceptable. So your finished floor elevations have been reached, it's been breached, and now there's going to be flooding in the structure. So that's just a reference of level of service. The closed basin criteria, we really didn't have a good definition of the closed basin criteria. This is really like a depressional area or an area that does not have a discharge. So it's really a deposit, low-lying area that really depends on the soils, permeability, evapotranspiration to get rid of the water. So it really doesn't have a good way of discharge. For example, I don't know if everyone here has been to Esser Street Park, but that park was designed as a closed basin. It protects, Lincoln, North Atlantic, Florida Avenue, Condic, all those roadways. So it does have an emergency discharge, but it is a closed basin design, just for if you want to reference. The pre versus post, there's some clarification and new upgrades to our codes. The existing code actually allows a discharge to be greater in the post-development after construction than it does in the pre-development by about 10%. So we're going to do away with that to make sure that we have it in writing that post-development rate and volume, both rate and volume, have to be less than pre-development. So basically that area in the light green would have to be contained completely on site after development. So that's the volume in that green area. All right. Any other upgrades to the LDR codes? I spoke about the various rain events, and it depends on what element they're designing. If it's a typical stormwater retention pond, they have the 25-year, 24-hour storm event. If it's a curb line, which is just your curb adjacent to the roadway, it's the mean annual event, so it's a lesser event, but they still have to qualify and show those hydraulic, they have to show those calculations when they submit their application for site plan or subdivision design. But at least we have it in writing now, so they can go right to it. The freeboard it helps the level of service. This is not a new concept. This has been around. DOT's had it for decades. We simply did not have it in our code, and I think it provides like a level of safety that we need to incorporate into our guidelines. A lot of times, if you'll get a design in, for instance, say your design high water is elevation 10, and that comes out in your model. A lot of times the applicants or developers will make their top of the berm 10.1, 10.2. I mean, they'll barely meet the design code. So what we need to do is on a pond, that would be 1 foot. So we got that 1 foot buffer or protection for the surrounding area. And I think that's important to put that freeboard criteria in our LDR guidelines. This slide shows it's just two different freeboard examples. The one to my right shows it's just the hydraulic raid line, the energy line of the pipe and the adjacent structure. So that freeboard is a little less, but yet you have to have that freeboard in there as well so the water doesn't come out and discharge into the roadway. So that's critical. And then, of course, I talked about the 1 foot freeboard. So when you have your design high water, say that elevation is 10 again, your freeboard berm would then have to be put at a minimum elevation of 11. So again, that's that factor of safety that is critical. One of the items, I think, in just my opinion, one of the most critical items when you do modeling, they set up all their links, nodes, and they do storm-wise, add ICPR, whatever they model. I think the most critical element you have is your tailwater. And that's the elevation of where are you going to discharge, right? So if you have a 25-year, 24-hour storm event, and you have a design high water, again at 10, right? And you're discharging to 8 because you found this canal that's down here at 8. Well, that's great, but that's not your design high water in your canal doesn't match your storm event. So we need you to know your storm event and what is that design high water in that canal you're discharging to at that storm event. And so that would, in other words, that would probably be a surcharge. So then they would have to come up and redesign. So the tailwater is the critical item when they're developing a model. So this is going to help us tremendously. The other LDR regulations that are included in this amendment, of course, when stormwater improvements are implemented, they're brand new, everything, it works well, there's no issues, but 10, 15 years, there's degradation, there's buildup of silt, soil, pipe failures, et cetera. How do we get in there? And we deal with that a lot today, which is why we have a Kaiser, a mobile excavator, because we don't have the easements. So for all the new developments, we've put in the appropriate easements for access and put in things like maximum side slopes and that type of thing. So they provide the necessary, horizontal distance we need to get in. So, and we also threw in roadway, street guidelines, talked about the curb line. That's that 10-year, 24-hour storm event for your curb line design. The hydraulic grade line, 6 inches. Again, that goes back to your freeboard, which is the 6 inches. And of course, your seasonal high water table has to be at least a foot below the base material. That just protects that material. It's typically, if you have lime rock, if it gets saturated, it's going to destroy the base material after a series of years. So you don't want that. So these are guidelines that some of these are known or should have been known, but now they're in writing. Now we can enforce them. The other design guidelines, these charts, if you will, these graphs just show the capacity. The table 7 is just the capacity of the structures. So if they're, they got a road and they have a curb inlet and the flow is, 5 cubic feet per second, they can't use a type 1 structure. You got to use type 2. All right, you got to upgrade it, or that way you're going to have backflow and your curb line, and then you got to go into quarter crown. You're going to start flooding the roadway. So this tells the designer what they need to do. Table 8 is that's going to help out maintenance ops a lot as well, because this dictates how many control structures, how many inlets, how many manholes they have. So it gives us access. For instance, an 18-inch pipe, the maximum distance you can be between structures is 300 feet. You can't make the 800 feet, and you put that in the right of way. We can't get to it. We can't get to the end. So that's going to help out maintenance ops. Pipe velocities, these are put into place. We usually don't have a whole lot of, vertical differential, so there's not a whole lot of issues with velocities. But you want to make sure that your velocities are high enough to flush the pipe. So you don't want to get deposits, but you want to make sure that your velocity is not too high and create scour. So that's why we have these minimum, maximum velocities in there. The open drainage system is just another guideline. This is mainly for overland flow. So this is just like an open field or grassed area. And again, this provides maximum velocities because it would destabilize the material. It causes erosion, rills, washouts. You don't want that. So this now provides guidelines to designers. And of course, we always endorse best management practices, stockpile material, temporary seeding. You know, we have an ordinance 6019 that is construction management guidelines. And that also talks about some of this criteria, maximum stockpiling material. But this puts it in our LDR section to make them aware. We also talked about improving infill. It seems to be an issue. So we've enhanced those criteria as far as what is required to be treated off of a 500 square foot versus a 2,500 square foot. One of them is just like 1.5 inches of the impervious surface. It's a lesser, it's a volume only. And once you get to the larger commercial over 2,500, that's when you have to do your modeling. So it's a rate and flow thing as well. So that's the difference. And we have to be crystal clear on that, what's required at what impervious surface improvement. LID guidelines, standards are good to have, more permeable materials, less impervious area, you know, maybe some bioswales, that type of thing will be or endorsed as well. So with all these factors, it just gives us a higher level of safety for development. Oh, and that's it. Also wanted to let you know, we did have feedback from the city manager's office, got some feedback from VCARD, and they had some good comments as well. We've incorporated those. Didn't mention, we do have reference to sea level rise in here. And obviously, once this is adopted, there's no retroactive, use of this guidelines. This is all for future development, future site plans, future subdivisions, once it approved. So with that, went through it pretty quickly, but I'd be willing to take any questions you may have.
Thank you to the city engineer for that. My colleagues have questions or comments?
Brief comment.
Yes, sir.
Kyle, we're increasing, obviously, the water retention. What prevents us from increasing it substantially more? In other words, let's go to a 500-year storm event, make a development, have to go ahead and hold all the water for a 500-year event. Why don't we do that? Why can't we?
Yeah, why don't we go to a 1,000-year event?
That's right.
Where's it stop? Where's it end? We have data. I mean, we have NOAA data. We have other information for these guidelines. I just don't have the scientific data needed to implement some of those higher storm events. We just don't have that background, the information, the technical requirements for a 500. I don't know what a 500-year storm event would be in this area. What's the elevation? I don't have that. I have the backup from the water management districts, from the Corps, and from DEP, but I don't have anything from the 500-year.
So is Milton, or more importantly, Ian, evidence that would allow us to build to that level? Or what happens to where we have to limit and not go to a 500 or 1,000-year storm event?
Yeah, I think
we've had two. Roughly arguably those two events in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Or certainly with Ian, Milton, not necessarily as much.
Yeah, Ian was a phenomenal amount of rain.
Yeah.
23. I don't know if you could even design for 23 inches of rain. It was so phenomenal. And a surge, there's a high surge. So you have to have these reasonable guidelines. They have to be defendable. And I don't know that I can do that with a higher storm event like that.
Okay, so I think that's the key. You just said they have to be reasonable and defendable.
Yes.
And in a court. Okay. Second question is, you have a low-lying area you're going to develop. Let's say it's low, it's a wetland. And you're going to create retention ponds on that to hold the water. Do you fill the land in and then create the retention ponds up higher to then hold a certain amount? Let me back up. The water table is very low to begin with. How do you build up above the water table and then build a stormwater retention system on top of that built-up land to hold it? Because you can't go that deep. I get what I'm saying is you can't go that deep. How do you create enough retention in an area to hold all that water when the water table is so low to begin with?
That's a good question. You mentioned wetlands. So wetlands are a whole different issue.
Yeah, let me back that. Let me just say a wet area,
Okay.
Low-lying area that is not necessarily defined as a wetland.
Not in the floodplain. Not environmentally
Well,
sensitive area,
if
not
we're
a wetland.
developing in a floodplain, yes. I said, where are you going to be developing?
Okay.
So if you have 1,000 acres and you're going to develop these 1,000 acres, you have to rise it to get above a certain base flood elevation. Where does that retention pond come in at to hold all that water? In terms of how deep can you make them?
Well, typically, if you have a design engineer with some experience, you have all your topographic information. You have your LiDAR information. You have your whatever your wetlands or whatever your low areas are. That's where your retention pond is going to be naturally. You're not going to look at your high area of the lot and say, well, let's put a pond up there, so it has to work its way up there. That's not good practices. It doesn't make any sense. So you can develop on the uplands, but you're going to develop your pond and everything in the low area. So if it's, it's not uncommon in some areas as you get close to the creek, Trimble Bay, Spruce Creek, et cetera. Some of the normal water levels or seasonal high water levels are at or above grade. So you don't have any volume, you don't have any retention until you can give us a geotechnical report, and you gotta have your borings, and you have to determine your seasonal high water level, which is one of the questions at P&Z. And you have to determine all those, and then on top of that, your ground level could be 0, and your normal water level or your seasonal high water is 1 above ground, because there's a hydro period, and certain times of year it's higher. Well, I'm not going to let you keep 0 as a volume in your calculation. You got to go above 1. So all that has to be determined. So then you build your retention pond on that elevation 1, which is a seasonal high water level. So that's how you design your pond.
The bottom of the pond is going to be start at that 1.
Yeah, and it's going to be a wet retention, unless you're like on beachside or somewhere else where you have dry, good soils. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Perrine.
Yes, you and I have talked about this driving around the city before, looking at stormwater. There's a nice balance here and you made 2 comments, reasonable and realistic. Have you done a study yet to see if there are any developers out there that this is going to impact that would trigger a lawsuit?
No study. I can tell you I have received some inquiries on some projects that they want to get them in before this is passed.
I can see
because
why.
they're a little more stringent. But nothing beyond that, though, Commissioner, no. Just that they really don't want to follow the new guidelines. And they know they're good guidelines. It's just going to take up more of their area, more of their lot.
I'm all about better stormwater.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Yeah,
I agree with you, and I just would like to make sure that we know the outcome if this is going to trigger anything, that somebody's already has started. They're going to have to start over, because I don't want to be surprised down the road with a developer calling all of us saying,
We've reached out to VCARD,
okay.
the Responsible Development, and they did provide input, and they had their engineers provided input. We worked with a our engineering firm. They also do site plans and develop. So they don't want to make it more stringent as well. So yeah, there is a mutual understanding of what we can and can't do as far as our guidelines.
Are we going to be the first city in this area that goes to this model, or is it something that's going to follow everywhere, Daytona, Port Orange, Edgewater?
I'm pretty sure the county's already looked at our guidelines. I've seen what they have recommended, and they seem to mirror what we present. I'm not aware of any other city at this point in time that is as far as long as we are. So I think there is going to be a lot of other cities touching base with us, me, and wanting to see our new guidelines.
Very good. Thank you for this. It's very informational.
Commissioner Martin?
First, I'd like to thank you for including maintenance criteria.
Right, okay.
Yeah, right. The cleaning out can be a real issue. The question is the level of service. I noticed that we have defined what we're engineering to for roads, but I didn't see for other projects if we are saying you are to engineer to X level of service. Did I miss that?
When you say other projects, that is for the projects, like for the,
No, you've explained the 4 levels of service
Right.
possible, but you didn't say which one you expected for, say, a housing development.
that is correct. That was for reference only, and there has been no level of service adopted.
So we are, roads, we seem to indicate which level we want.
Yes,
But I didn't notice anything for any other buildings. That's what
correct.
you're
You're
saying.
correct. That's a
Okay.
good observation, yes.
Have we considered including, and I don't know whether this, I think this is probably a separate LDR, but the FEMA recommendations for coastal construction. Because what I'm seeing is that while we're working really, really hard to control the water around buildings, we're not really looking at how we are building to not need so many pipes. In other words, FEMA recommends having this space underneath the buildings like we're doing with the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. And the more water that we can absorb under a building, the fewer pipes we need, right?
Correct. We do have floodplain, and we have regulatory guidelines for flooding for VE zones on the coast.
Yes.
So there are some VE zones near the river, but primarily it's on the coast. And there are guidelines for VE zones of what you can and cannot build. And they're in our floodplain regulatory guidelines, separate document than the stormwater.
Yeah,
LDR.
but it's not all of those issues. My house, just for example, is not in VE zone.
Correct.
Ellison Acres, not in VE to the best of my knowledge.
You're correct.
But these are all natural basins that we're creating problems, so I just think that this is one part of the puzzle, but we need to also act on another part of the puzzle. So I think this is great what you're doing. I really appreciate it. And is there any way to have any automatic trigger for sea level rise? I don't know how we're measuring it, but we know it's here.
Yeah, we just have to adopt whatever NOAA, intermediate, low or high impact. That's what we have to adopt. But we haven't adopted that yet.
Thank you.
So,
Commissioner Ashley?
Yeah, a couple of things. Do these apply to Artesia Park or Venetian Bay Phase 6, these updates?
it'll apply for future developments after this is approved.
So the ground is still there without any buildings. Is that a future development or?
Excuse me?
Venetian Bay Phase 6, Artesia Park, there aren't any buildings yet.
Yeah, but that's already been approved. The design, the calculations, the plans have already been approved. In fact, they have phase 3 and 4 in already.
So in light of these new regulations, if I were to move into Artesia Park, would I feel unsafe? Because these standards don't apply to my neighborhood.
No, I would not feel unsafe at all. Artesia Park, they went above and beyond our current guidelines.
Okay. Somebody made it, next point, someone made a comment tonight that if, once Venetian Bay Phase 6 is done, because the lots are higher than the current Palms, the new Phase 6 Palms, when all that neighborhood is finished, the old Palms is gonna flood because of that reason. Is that a true statement?
No, I don't know of any flooding that occurred from phase 1, 2, 2A, 3, 4, and 5.
Me either, but I just wondered, I mean, I have no idea whether that comment made by that person is true or not. You probably do, right?
Phase 6 contains its own runoff. There was some floodplain. They did a letter of map revision through FEMA. They do discharge, but they discharge to the west. They do not contribute runoff toward that everyone talks about that ditch along Airport Road.
Yeah.
So they actually discharge to the west into the, it's a huge, hundreds and hundreds of acres of conservation area, wetlands back in there.
To
So
the
they don't
west.
even contribute to the issues that others are facing. So no, there's not gonna be any impact, Phase 6, to any of the other phases. It's standalone, it's its own basin.
That's all I need to know.
Okay.
Kyle, thank you, and Tron, and all the work that you guys have done together. I was present at the P&Z meeting and listened to this detailed quantitative attempt to put teeth into an old LDR and make it not just qualitative, it actually had quantitative value to it. So I admire that. Why now? Why did you start now? Why wasn't it done 10 years ago? Not a pejorative question, just how did you come to do it now?
Well, some things just need a complete overhaul. You know, we're doing the master plan, obviously, Phase 1, Phase 2. And we've done minor improvements to the LDR, stormwater regulation, Title 6, Section 6. We have done some upgrades, but let's just revamp it, bring it up to date, make it a better level of service. It was just time to redo the whole section. It just was. In light of all the, all the concerns, the public outcry, the flooding, everything, we needed to make this crystal clear what we expect for future development.
Certainly in the name of stormwater management, I applaud that. Commissioner McGurk talks about days when he was on planning and zoning and the level of effort it takes for your staff to do these revisions. Do you have a priority list, and there are many more to come? And if so, when would we expect, and how long is that list?
The priority list for the changes?
Yeah.
This is the priority right now. I don't have any future changes for the LDR. Once the master plan Phase 2 is complete, and we have, they're doing a lot of data gathering at this point in time, but once the modeling is complete and some of the guidelines and some of the restrictions for the outfall or the flow or the capacity of the ditches or the conveyance canals, whatever, once we know that, then we'll put that into our LDR. And they have to prove we are not exacerbating, we're not making it a worse problem, we're not impacting the capacity of that system based on our development. But that's not going to happen until after Phase 2 of the Stormwater Master Plan.
Good. And the comment about why we don't just set the bar way high, I think your colleague said that we're not in the business of making those measurements. That's what NOAA does. That's what that's what FEMA does. And so while we may not have the most current for right here, our ability to make it stand up in a court of law if it was scrutinized by a would-be developer would be suspect. That's why we use other people. We use the work of other people that are in their job description. They're required to make those standards. Have I got that right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay.
Right on.
Could you make an estimate of how much buildable land is left in New Smyrna? Not wetlands that you can build up. What % of New Smyrna is left that is vacant that could be built in?
Good question. Obviously, it's more toward 95, a little bit to the east, but mostly to the west. So probably 25 to 30% of the city.
Of the entire 41 miles?
41 square miles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
About somewhere between 20 and 30%?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Talking with Director Bergeron about, is there a requirement for us to talk about or to release what the financial impact is on would-be builders and from a differential from what we did have to what we do have? Is that measurable?
It's not measurable, but I'm in the process of doing a financial impact statement now.
So, dovetails into my % question. I worry that this is a righteous move. We have to do this. This is getting the quant into a lazy document, so I love that. What I'm a little worried about and concerned about is the horse already out of the barn? We're going to squeeze it and make it really, really tight, and what difference will we make by doing this? One question. And the other one is, are we making it so hard and so challenging that only wealthy, very large developers would be able to afford to do this, and we become the the future building becomes the land of big business, big developer rather than the small developer. I worry about that. Because if the percent of land that's already built on in New Smyrna is so huge that any more squeezing would be a de minimis return, it bothers me from a financial standpoint and from an economic development standpoint that we will certainly do no harm in terms of water spilling over to other places, but will we have tightened up the noose so tight that no one will be able to afford to build in our town?
No, I don't think so. It's not that severe. You saw the existing 25-year, 24 hours, 9 inches. We're going up to 9.5. It's not to the point where it's going to have that magnitude of impact where you're only going to get the large developers. So it's a fractional increase, but it's a factor of safety we need. And how is it going to help in the future? We all know if you look at a lot of connectivity with Venetian Bay, and now we're looking at Deering Point, that there is canals and so forth that connect these, and there's pipes underneath 44, and there's Samsula canals on the south side of 44. Likewise, it's on the north side. So it's going to be the accountability of that future developer not to increase the flow into the existing canal systems, which is the discharge point for some of our existing subdivisions. Right. So that's the premise of this whole thing. I think that's how it's really going to help us.
Grateful. Thank you for that. Appreciate you answering those questions. Any follow-up from any of my colleagues? Thank you for that report. I appreciate that. Okay. Okay, and we'll revisit this on the February 11th meeting. On to boards and commissions. We're going to now go to a Charter Review Committee nominations, which the commissioners will appoint 11 citizens to serve as regular member of their term expiring 1 November 2025. Madam City Clerk, would you set this up, please?
Yes, so at the time of agenda publishing, we had 4 applications submitted to the clerk's office. And today, right before the meeting, I provided each of you with a packet of all of the applications of the applicants that have submitted applications. And we will keep the link open for those who are appointed to term to complete. So the clerk's office will have proper contact information for meetings.
So the purpose of your putting it on the line was just to get the information, not to have a quantitative or qualitative assessment of their qualifications,
Correct.
just to collect the information.
Correct.
And you'll leave that open after this is over with.
Correct.
Okay, very good. So let's have each member of the commission will nominate 2 citizens from their respective zones. Let's start with Zone 1. Commissioner Perrine.
Yes, thank you. I have 2 for Zone 1, Palmer Wilson, and the second one is Steve Fuselaar. And we need to check on his. He did say they transmitted his today, but it wasn't in the packet. He just wants to make sure he submitted it in the right place.
We received it at 6.
Oh, you did? Thank you.
Okay, very good. Zone 2, Commissioner Martin.
I appoint Farley Palmer and Steve Snively.
Okay. Zone 3.
Khalid Rashida, and I need some clarification. The appointees have to live in your zone? Okay, then I will defer my 1. I'll have to get back to you on the second appointment.
Zone 4, Mr.
I have one, Diana Poole. And did you say yes, they have to live in your zone? Mm-hmm. Okay, then I would appoint Dan Rokier.
Could you repeat that, please?
Dan Rokier? I think it's R-O-K-J-E-R.
That's it. Very good. And my appointees are Spencer Hathaway, Michael Eisen, and Judy Riker. So, Madam City Attorney, how would we proceed with an absence of one? Is it okay to approve this slate now and add on Commissioner McGurk's second pick at the next meeting?
You can do that. You also have, as a commission, you may waive the requirement to have them in your zone. So you have both of those options.
Very good. Any of my colleagues want to discuss that? Anybody would like to make a motion to do the waiver? Okay, we'll stick with what we got. So a motion to accept the 10 citizens nominated as members of the Charter Review Committee.
So moved.
A motion
Second?
and a second. Madam City Clerk, please call a roll.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley?
Yes.
Commissioner Perrine?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Fusilier, Mr. Farley, Mr. Snively, Mr. Rashadat, Mr. Rocher, Ms. Poole, Mr. Hathaway, Mr. Eisen, Ms. Riker. Congratulations. Thank you for stepping forward. The city clerk's office will be in touch very soon. Appreciate that. Anything further, ma'am?
Not at this time,
Very
thank you.
good. Okay, on to commission reports. Vice Mayor, have you got one for us?
Yeah. I was very proud to participate in some of the Martin Luther King celebration activities last week. And I thoroughly enjoyed all 3 days of the Images Art Festival, both as a patron and as a volunteer. You know, as we know, this show brings attendees and artists from around the country who fill our restaurants and local shops. A big economic boon for our businesses and a delight for the attendees. And for those who have asked us a lot recently, I do have reason to believe that the New Smyrna Utilities Commission staff will recommend discontinuing the use of fluoride. And that's my report.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. And Commissioner Ashley.
I'd like to say that I think that possibly the use of V-Card in the future as more of a resource for development might be helpful. That organization, to me, in my experience with them, having had frequent meetings, a couple of lunches, they seem to be very, very knowledgeable about the latest techniques in development, and they do not seem to be one-sided in terms of extreme development either. They seem to take into account the citizens' considerations too, so I would just mention that in passing.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Commissioner Perrine.
So my apologies for missing a lot of the events this week. I missed this State of City info at Brannon, a lot of the ribbon cuttings. I was sick, but I was able to make images, and it was great. And I was sad about not being able to make everything this week. So my apologies to the public if I signed up for one of your events and I did not make it. I also want to remind we have 2 big important events coming up for Habitat and First Step. It's February 8th. I hope to see you at one or the other, and to be sure an RSVP to Sharon if you could on that. We need to fill that table. And just thank you. Glad to be here tonight.
Appreciate that. Commissioner McGurk.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that another Images in the books, another successful contribution to the community, and I think it's fantastic. And I was related to Images with the ACA. I was able to attend. Doug McGinnis was given an award, and it was very touching for the community or the ACA to recognize Doug for all the contributions that he and his family have done for so long. And it's And it would be, I think there'd be, I know he's Edgewater, but the contribution to the area has been amazing, and maybe we can do something, write up a little something for him in the future. Thank you, Mayor.
Absolutely. Okay, no particular order here. I've got a lengthy list. Last time I spoke about the 13 January roundtable of elected officials. What I failed to mention was that we have formed a stormwater subcommittee, which will inculcate entire county's worth of individual city activities and ensure that we dovetail one city to the next. And this group, this subcommittee, will be led by Jake Johansson, our commissioner, our councilman at large, and Daytona Beach Shores Mayor Nancy Miller. They've asked me to serve. I'm happy to do it. We will have a say in what gets brought up and when it gets brought up, and it will. Heard lots of residents tonight come and say, "Hey, gee, I hope you guys aren't doing something by yourselves." So rest assured, this will be dovetailed throughout the county and throughout the state. The Volusia County Association for Responsible Growth that Commissioner Ashley spoke about had an award ceremony and a speaker. They had the Space Coast chief executive talk to us about what the value to our town and our county is for the Space Coast, another county away, and the development there, the revitalization, the privatization of space travel is going to continue to benefit not just from a technological standpoint, but from a business standpoint right here in New Smyrna. The other pleasure we had was former city manager Rashadat received his Distinguished Service Award that day, and well-deserved, and was delighted that VCARD did that. The Martin Luther King Day events were undaunted by chilly weather. There was a great breakfast at the Pleasant Grove Church. Did a very fine job with assembling many folks there. The parade was well attended, and then the function afterwards, the Babe James Center, was second to none. A very nice presentation by the entire group, and the day was memorialized. Hopefully that'll happen all month long. I was fortunate to go to a ceremony at the Brandon Center where we had our new police boat out there, and our FINE, the Florida Inland Navigation District board member, Commissioner, Mr. Buddy Davenport was there. He presented the city with a check for $75,000, which helped pay for our city boat, which is out and about on the water. Any of you mariners will know that we now have a very big presence on the water from an enforcement standpoint. I was invited by the chamber to, along with the other three mayors, to give kind of an economic perspective on the state of the city. We did that. We talked about stormwater. We talked about the growth of viable businesses here in our community and how that compared to last year. And the trend was down from 23 to 24 in number of permits issued and number of millions of dollars that came in. And so with a new economic development director, my hope is that we'll be on that big time. We talked about parking, mobility director, and parking at large. And then the last topic was living in a park, what it would be like to live and work in a park. Congratulate the city manager for the $800,000 grant. This will fund and help fund our phase 1 and phase 2 stormwater management efforts that are ongoing right now. You'll hear the plan in April, and you'll hear the fix sometime in 2026. So it's going to take just a little longer to get the plan and a lot longer to get the fix. So stay tuned to that. We'll have updates as you go. The Volusia County League of Cities met this past week, attended that, where they installed all their new officers, and Mayor of the Daytona Beach Shores, Nancy Miller, announced that she plans to run for the seat, the at-large seat at the county council. So big news there. Stay tuned. We opened Phase 2 of the skate park, the kids' skate park. You saw Wyatt Luttrell come up here, and he was one of the prime movers, along with Katie Liller and her two sons, to prompt our commission to do some more funding. And so through the ECHO grant program, we actually have really renovated, and we have perhaps Florida, perhaps the state's leading skate park. The premier designer and builder of skate parks in America designed our park as his first project. And so now he designs them and builds them all over the country. We have a world-class operation there. Good on Director Salazar for setting that whole thing up. As Commissioner McKirk mentioned, we did our 49th ACA-sponsored images. Hats off to the police department, the fire department, city manager for thinking of increasing the hardenized or ruggedized barriers to our city so that we didn't have another New Orleans type event. That was good thinking and executed well. Hats off to Chief Kirk for making that run smoothly. Certainly Jennifer Coolidge, who is the new executive director for the ACA, and for Russ North, who is their board chairman. I've spoken with Ephraim Chavez, the CEO of the Utilities Commission. As Commissioner Martin mentioned, fluoride will be on the topic. The staff plans to recommend that, along with the state's Chief Surgeon General, that fluoride be removed from New Smyrna Beach water. Lastly, and something that our citizens are rallying around, the Mayor's Fitness Challenge starts off next Monday night on the athletic field. And so we had 70 signups this time. Mr. Salazar has revamped that program yet again, and it continues to attract great attention. I'll be out there. I'm going to challenge all of you to come on out. It's a great time. One night in the gym, doing stuff with Orange Theory, one night on the ball field with the New Smyrna Athletic Club coaches there leading the way. Madam City Clerk, any report from you, ma'am?
No, not at this time.
Madam City Attorney, anything further?
Just to follow up on the charter review item, tomorrow I'll get in contact with the selected facilitator. I'll need to coordinate with the clerk's office and also the supervisor of election to map out, when we could potentially have our meetings complete, the 2 public hearings before the commission, and then a special election. So I'll report back with timing.
Awesome. Mr. City Manager.
Nothing else, sir.
Excellent. Any other business you'd like to conduct tonight? Seeing none other, we're adjourned.